Hey guys, welcome to Wrestling Days and welcome to this WWE action figure Scariest Superstars video. I didn't want to look at just zombie figures and just monsters figures. We've already looked as well at the scariest figure. You don't need to search that video out. We're going to talk about it again in this video. But what I wanted to do was look at the scariest superstars and look at the Mattel figures that have been made of them. So we've got some very scary superstars to talk about. We've got some scary figures to look at as well. But as we said, we're not going to just focus on zombies and monsters figures. But let's start with the scariest superstar. Let's start with the legend that is the Undertaker. So you can see on screen right now, the Undertaker. This is the Network Spotlight Ministry of Darkness figure. Look at that robe. Absolutely incredible. I can tell you it looks amazing on a shelf. It's such a great entrance attire. And obviously Ministry of Darkness really says it all. This has got a very dark, satanic feel to it. I mean, the Undertaker is scary enough, but man, when he was a heel and he was extra scary like this, this really had to be included in the video. There's another figure you can see on screen that I just had to include. This is the Lost Legend Elite, and it's obviously based on when he had purple gloves and purple boot coverings, but also when he had broken his orbital bone. So he had to wear a mask, and the mask he's wearing is kind of like Phantom of the Opera kind of like mask. It's very, very cool. A lot of people, when this came out, regarded this as one of the best Mattel figures ever made. I think now that we've got TrueFX face scan, it's starting to look a little bit dated. But still, with that mask, it's a very different look for the Undertaker. And again, very, very cool. They have done some monsters figures and things like that. You can see the monsters figure here. This is a little bit cartoony, so I'm not sure if you could class this as scary, but his hands are larger and his features have been exaggerated, so probably still worth mentioning. We could stand here and talk all day about different Undertaker figures. We have done a video about Undertaker attires, certainly based on WrestleMania, things like that. So I will put a link to that video on screen now. Of course, you can't talk about The Undertaker unless you're going to mention Paul Bearer. And Paul Bearer had a figure as well. You can see here there was a Build-A-Figure, but better than that, they came out with this Hall of Champions. This came out last year, so you might still be able to find it. I'm not too sure, but it's a very cool figure. Obviously goes really well with The Undertaker. Paul Bearer, a very scary character in his own right. You get a couple of urns here. You get a championship belt with this figure as well, so very, very popular character. Again, you can't talk about The Undertaker unless you're going to talk about this man, Kane. Kane, absolutely incredible. The brother of The Undertaker. The brother of the dead man. You can get a great Hall of Champions figure that comes with, like, the full mask. Of course, he's had different looks. I think his scariest was when he first came in. So you've got that Hall of Champions figure, which looks really cool. There's a new one that's just come out. Ringside Collectibles. Look at this. Dead Man in Disguise. So this is a Kane figure, but then when you take the mask off, it's actually the Undertaker. It's based on a segment from the Attitude Era, I believe. And this is a very popular figure. That only came out about a month ago, if that. So, yeah, that is on Ringside Collectibles right now. We've got to talk as well, before we move on, about the Kane zombie figure. You can see it on screen right now. And spoiler alert, this is, in my opinion, the scariest wrestling figure ever made. Because when you take the mask off, that is what greets you underneath. That is horrific. That is absolutely horrific. So, yes, that for me is the scariest wrestling figure. Not just Mattel, any wrestling figure ever. That is the scariest one. Let's move on, though, to the Boogeyman. The Boogeyman right here, you can see he's got the missing teeth. Loads of detail. Comes with the clock accessory, which is awesome, and the staff as well. Sadly, no worms dripping out of his mouth. Of course, he was known for eating worms. Really, really scary superstar. Terrified a lot of kids in the 2000s. And obviously we still see him from time to time on like the reunion shows. Well, they did make a figure of him, Elite Series 48, and it is very, very cool. Let's move on, shall we, to Mankind. Mankind, who, of course, would go on to be a little bit of a comedy character in the Rock and Sock Connection. I'm not going to focus on that version. I'm going to focus on Mankind when he debuted. Because when he debuted, he, like, lived in a boiler room and he would rip bits of hair out of his head. The figure actually comes with a clump of hair, obviously made out of plastic. And it's in his, like, debut all-brown attire. Of course, his finishing move was the mandible claw, and that's what the Fiend uses now. So, yeah, very scary superstar, Mankind. Moving on, we've got Papa Shango. They've released this a couple of times. You can get it as part of a normal Elite figure, or it was in the Hall of Fame 2-pack. Papa Shango, for those of you that don't know, was like an early 90s superstar. And he would put curses on people. Like, he made Ultimate Warrior throw up and made all this black goo come dripping down his face. He was like a voodoo doctor. So he used, like, black, dark magic. Very, very scary stuff. And this is a very cool figure as well. Similar to the Boogeyman, he's got face paint, loads of detail, fun little accessories, including a necklace of bones. Very, very cool. We can't talk about Scary without talking about this guy, can we? Bray Wyatt. You can see a picture of the Fiend on screen right now. Sadly, there is no Fiend figure yet. Of course, they are working day and night, I would imagine, to get one out for us. So I would go with Series 36 Bray Wyatt. I really like the apron accessory. It reminds me of like Leatherface from the horror films. So I think that's really cool. You can also get like a creator figure that came with the apron and a mask as well, which I think are just really good accessories. So you can get some really cool Bray Wyatt Mattel action figures anyway, but make no mistake about it, everyone is waiting for the Fiend. Moving on, we've got Isaac Yankem. This was a San Diego Comic-Con exclusive. And what is scarier than a dentist? Well, I can tell you, an evil dentist. Isaac Yankem, DDS, was an evil dentist. And honestly, this terrified me as a kid. Now, this isn't an easy figure to find, but it is out there on eBay. You might have to pay a little bit more for it because it was a San Diego Comic-Con exclusive, but equally terrifying and very, very cool. Right, we've got next up Kamala! Kamala, the Ugandan giant. At first sight, he might not be that scary, but the thing was, he terrified me as a kid because he didn't speak English, he didn't understand what was going on. They made out like he was just a complete animal. Like, he, like, might eat people, we just didn't know. He wasn't used to, like, our world. He came from a tribe in Uganda. He wasn't used to, like, being around so many people. He had to have, like, two people handle him. Two people had to control him because he was just, like, an animal. He was basically an animal. He could do anything at any time. He was so unpredictable. I was terrified of Kamala. as I was growing up watching wrestling. And this figure, I mean, I had to include it anyway because this figure is one of the best Mattel figures they've ever made. I think it looks absolutely brilliant. You get some great accessories with it as well. So I don't know if you'll look at it and think that it's scary or terrifying, but I can tell you if you actually saw him in person, you just didn't know what he was going to do. Moving on, we got a couple more. We got Jake the Snake Roberts, and look at that image. That image alone is why he makes this video. He brought a snake down to the ring and he wasn't afraid to unleash it on his opponents. And as you can see there, Macho Man Randy Savage actually bitten by the snake. You know, venom, poison going into the body of the Macho Man. And absolutely terrifying. I mean, I thought he was cool, like watching on TV. I still think he's cool. He's still one of my favourite wrestlers. But again, someone that brings down a deadly animal to the ring. Plus also, Jake the Snake himself was so unhinged. Like in his promos and everything, he was an incredible wrestler. An absolutely incredible wrestler. And the figure you can see on screen right now, that's the Legends figure. It's got a similar attire to when he set the snake on Macho Man. The snake as well is a little bit darker in colour. There's been quite a few different Jake the Snakes, but this is the one that's most similar to that moment. It's worth showing this as well. I think this was the Monsters figure. Again, very cartoony. You get two snakes and the jaws are hinged, so you can actually open and close the mouths on the two snakes. Again, a little bit cartoony, but very, very fun. The final superstar we're going to talk about, Finn Balor. Of course, we've got to talk about the Demon. We've got to talk about the Demon King. And we've got to talk about what I think could be the best Mattel figure ever made. I genuinely believe that. This is the Finn Balor Ultimate Edition figure. It's hitting stores this Christmas. I think it is available from Wrestling Shop as well, who have kindly sponsored this video. I would urge that you add a Finn Balor to your collection if you don't have one, and I would urge that you add this Finn Balor to your collection. I know I certainly will be when it becomes available, and as I said, I haven't actually checked. It might be out now, so yeah, absolutely love that figure. They have done others that you can see on screen. You really can't go wrong with any of the Demon Finn Balor Elites, but for me, that Ultimate Edition is the one. Let me know down in the comments below if there was another figure that should have been included in this list. Of course, there have been plenty of scary zombies and monsters figures and things like that. I didn't really want to just do a whole video on those, to be honest. I wanted to look at different superstars. But you can see some of those zombies figures on screen right now. If you've not seen them before, this might be the first time you're seeing them. And they are very, very cool. Awesome, guys. Thanks a lot for watching. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like. Hit the subscribe if you haven't already. And hopefully, I'll see you again next time. Bye for now.